What would you do if a hotel gave you a key to a room that doesn't exist? Not a hidden room, not a secret room, a room that officially was never built. When travel writer Nathan Cole checks into an old mountain hotel, he's handed a key labelled Room 303. At first, everything seems normal, until midnight. A mysterious note appears outside his door. A woman in white watches him from the end of an empty hallway, and the next morning, the hotel manager tells him something impossible. Sir, there has never been a Room 303. But that's only the beginning, because everyone who has entered Room 303 over the last 70 years has disappeared without a trace. And now, the room is waiting for Nathan. Stay until the end, because the shocking truth behind Room 303 is far darker than a haunted hotel, and the final twist changes everything. Chapter 1. The Key to Room 303. Learn English through story. Expanded mystery thriller. The rain began just before sunset. At first, it was only a light drizzle falling across the winding roads of northern Oregon. But by the time Nathan Cole crossed the state line into the remote mountain region of Ashwood Valley, the weather had transformed into a violent storm. Thunder rolled across the sky, lightning flashed behind dark clouds. The forest on both sides of the highway looked endless. Nathan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He had been driving for nearly 8 hours. His neck ached. His eyes felt heavy, and all he wanted was a hot meal, a comfortable bed, and a full night's sleep. Unfortunately, his assignment had brought him to one of the strangest places he had ever visited. Nathan worked as a writer for a travel magazine called Hidden America. His job was simple: travel to unusual places and write stories about them. Most assignments involved beautiful beaches, historic towns, or famous landmarks. This one was different. 3 weeks earlier, his editor had walked into his office carrying an old newspaper clipping. The headline immediately caught Nathan's attention. Historic Hotel reopens after 22 years of closure. The article described a forgotten luxury hotel located near the tiny mountain town of Raven Hollow. The hotel's name was the Blackthorne Manor Hotel. Once famous throughout the region, it had attracted wealthy guests from across the country. Then, almost overnight, it had shut its doors. No official explanation was ever given. Over time, rumors spread. Locals whispered about strange occurrences, missing guests, unexplained sightings, hallways that seemed to change, doors that appeared where they shouldn't. Most people dismissed the stories as myths, but the rumors never disappeared. Now, after 22 years, the hotel had reopened. Nathan's editor wanted a feature story, and Nathan had reluctantly accepted the assignment. At the time, he thought it sounded exciting. Now, driving through a storm toward an isolated hotel surrounded by miles of forest, he wasn't so sure. Lightning illuminated the landscape. For a brief moment, Nathan saw the silhouette of the hotel in the distance. His breath caught. The building looked enormous. Perched atop a rocky hill overlooking the valley below, the Blackthorne Manor resembled something from another century. Tall stone walls, dark towers, rows of glowing windows, sharp rooftops disappearing into the storm. The structure looked elegant and unsettling, almost as though it didn't belong in the modern world. 20 minutes later, Nathan pulled into the hotel's parking lot. Rain pounded the roof of his car. The wind howled across the property. Several large oak trees bent under the force of the storm. Nathan grabbed his suitcase and hurried toward the entrance. The massive wooden doors opened automatically. Warm air greeted him immediately. He stepped inside and stopped. The lobby was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. A marble floor reflected soft golden light. An enormous fireplace crackled near a seating area. Antique furniture filled the room. Large oil paintings decorated the walls. The entire hotel felt frozen in time, like stepping into another era. Nathan immediately understood why the building had once been famous. Yet something felt strange. The lobby was nearly empty. No families, no tourists, no conversations, no laughter, just silence. Only a single receptionist stood behind the front desk, a woman in her early 30s. Her dark hair was neatly tied back. She wore a black uniform with a silver name tag, Megan Foster. She smiled politely. "Welcome to Blackthorne Manor." Nathan approached the desk. "Reservation for Nathan Cole." Megan typed something into her computer. After a few seconds, she nodded. "Yes, Mr. Cole, we have your reservation." She opened a drawer beneath the desk. Instead of a keycard, she produced an old-fashioned brass key. Nathan smiled. I haven't seen one of those in years. Guests seemed to enjoy the experience. She placed the key on the counter. Nathan looked down. The attached metal tag displayed a room number. 303, room 303. For some reason, the number immediately stood out. He couldn't explain why. Maybe because it felt oddly familiar. Maybe because of the strange stories he'd heard. Either way, the sight of the number made him pause. "Third floor?" he asked. Megan nodded. "At the end of the east hallway." Nathan picked up the key. It felt surprisingly heavy. Older than the rest of the hotel, the brass surface showed signs of wear, as though countless people had held it before him. For a split second, Megan seemed about to say something. Then she stopped. "Is everything okay?" Nathan asked. The receptionist quickly smiled. Of course, yet her expression suggested otherwise. Nathan thanked her and headed toward the elevator. As the doors closed, he noticed Megan watching him, not casually, intently, almost nervously. The elevator moved upward with a faint mechanical hum. A few moments later, the doors opened. Nathan stepped onto the third floor. Immediately, the atmosphere changed. The lobby below had felt warm and welcoming. The third floor felt different, quieter, still. The hallway stretched ahead beneath dim wall lamps. Dark red carpet covered the floor. Old framed photographs lined the walls. Many showed the hotel during its glory days. Elegant parties, formal dinners, wedding celebrations, guests smiling for cameras decades ago. Nathan slowly walked down the corridor. His footsteps echoed softly. Oddly, he didn't hear anyone else. No televisions, no conversations, no doors opening, nothing. A cold draft brushed against his neck. Nathan stopped. The temperature suddenly felt lower. He glanced around. Every window was closed, every door remained shut, yet the cold persisted. Strange. He continued walking. The further he moved down the hallway, the quieter everything became. By the time he reached the end corridor, the silence felt almost unnatural. Then he found it. Room 303. The door stood beneath a small brass lamp. It looked older than the surrounding rooms. The wood appeared darker. The brass handle showed more wear. Even the number plates seemed slightly different. Nathan unlocked the door. The lock clicked loudly. Then he stepped inside. The room exceeded his expectations. Large king-sized bed, stone fireplace, vintage furniture, floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the valley, bookshelves, writing desk, leather armchair. Everything appeared elegant and comfortable. Nathan immediately began taking photographs. The magazine always required visual references. He photographed the bed, the fireplace, the artwork, the view outside, everything. For several hours he worked on notes for his article. Eventually he ordered room service. A waiter delivered dinner. Nathan noticed something odd. When the waiter saw the room number, his expression briefly changed. Only for a moment. But Nathan caught it. "You okay?" Nathan asked. The waiter forced a smile. "Yes, sir." Then he left unusually quickly. Nathan watched the door close. That was the second strange reaction he'd received. First Megan, now the waiter. Both seemed uncomfortable about room 303. The thought stayed with him during dinner, but eventually fatigue overcame curiosity. By 11 o'clock, the storm outside had intensified. Rain struck the windows. Thunder shook the building. Wind whistled through the trees. Nathan climbed into bed. Within minutes, he fell asleep. Then came the knocking. Knock, knock, knock. Nathan's eyes opened instantly. The room was dark. Only faint moonlight filtered through the curtains. He looked at the bedside clock. 12 a.m. For several seconds he remained still, listening. Nothing. Maybe it was part of a dream. Then it happened again. Knock, knock, knock. 3 deliberate taps, exactly the same as before. Someone stood outside his door. Nathan sat upright. His pulse quickened. Who would be visiting at this hour? He climbed out of bed, slowly approached the entrance. The knocking stopped immediately. Silence returned. Nathan unlocked the door, pulled it open. The hallway was empty, completely empty. No guests, no staff, no movement. Just a long corridor disappearing into darkness. Nathan stepped outside, looked left, looked right. Nothing. Then he noticed something near the floor. A folded piece of paper. His stomach tightened. Slowly he picked it up. The paper felt old, fragile, yellowed with age. He unfolded it carefully. A single sentence had been written in black ink. Leave before room 303 remembers you. Nathan stared at the message. A cold chill travelled down his spine. The words made no sense, yet something about them felt deeply unsettling. Remembers me? He whispered the phrase aloud. The hallway remained silent. Nathan looked around once more. Still nobody. Then, somewhere far down the corridor, a door softly creaked open. Nathan turned. For a brief moment, he thought he saw a figure standing at the opposite end of the hallway, a woman dressed in white, motionless, watching him. Lightning flashed outside. The hallway illuminated. The figure vanished, gone. Nathan's heartbeat accelerated. Maybe it was a shadow, a reflection, his imagination. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been there, watching, waiting. Slowly he returned to room 303, closed the door, locked it. Then he looked once more at the mysterious note resting in his hand. Leave before room 303 remembers you. For the first time since arriving at Blackthorne Manor Hotel, Nathan began to wonder whether the stories about the hotel might be true after all, and somewhere beyond the walls of room 303, something seemed to be waiting for him to remember it too. End of chapter 1. Now chapter 2, The Room That Didn't Exist. Learn English through story. Mystery thriller. Nathan Cole barely slept for the rest of the night. The mysterious note remained on the bedside table. Every time he closed his eyes, the words returned to his mind. Leave before room 303 remembers you. What did that even mean? Rooms didn't remember people. Rooms were just rooms. Wood, walls, furniture, nothing more. At least, that's what Nathan kept telling himself. Yet the image of the woman at the end of the hallway refused to leave his thoughts. Had he actually seen someone, or had exhaustion and the storm created an illusion? By 3 o'clock in the morning, Nathan finally drifted into an uneasy sleep. The next morning, sunlight poured through the large window. The storm had disappeared. Blue skies stretched across the valley below. Birds sang outside. Everything looked peaceful, normal. The events of the previous night suddenly seemed ridiculous. A strange note, a shadow in the hallway. Perhaps another guest had decided to play a prank on the newcomer. That explanation felt much more reasonable. Nathan showered, dressed, and headed downstairs for breakfast. The dining room overlooked the mountains. Several guests sat quietly eating. The atmosphere felt far more alive than it had the previous evening. For the first time since arriving, Nathan felt relaxed. Maybe he had overreacted. Maybe the hotel's reputation had influenced his imagination. After breakfast, he decided to ask a few questions, not because he believed anything supernatural was happening, simply because he was curious, and curiosity was part of his job. Around 9 o'clock, he approached the reception desk. Megan Foster was working again. She smiled politely. "Good morning, Mr. Cole. How did you sleep?" Nathan laughed softly. "Honestly, not very well." Her smile faded slightly. "Is something wrong?" Nathan removed the folded note from his pocket and placed it on the counter. "I found this outside my room last night." Megan looked down. The moment she read the message, all colour drained from her face. Nathan immediately noticed. "You've seen this before?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the note. Her hands trembled, only slightly, but enough for Nathan to notice. "Megan?" She finally looked up. "Where exactly did you find it?" "Outside room 303. The silence that followed felt heavy, uncomfortable. Megan slowly shook her head. "That's impossible." Nathan frowned. "What is?" Her eyes remained fixed on him. "Room 303. Nathan blinked. "What about it?" Megan swallowed nervously. "Sir, there is no room 303. Nathan laughed. A genuine laugh. Very funny. But Megan wasn't smiling. She looked terrified. "I'm serious." Nathan's amusement disappeared. "What are you talking about? I slept there last night." Megan stepped away from the desk, opened a cabinet, pulled out a large binder. She placed it on the counter. "These are the original floor plans." Nathan leaned forward. The documents looked old. Several pages contained detailed layouts of every floor. Megan opened the third floor section. Nathan examined the map carefully. Room 301, room 302, room 304, room 305, room 306. His smile slowly vanished. Room 303 wasn't there. Not missing from one page, missing from every page. Nathan frowned. Maybe it's an older version. Megan shook her head. No. She opened another document, then another, then another. Every blueprint showed the same thing. No room 303. Nathan stared at the plans. His confidence began to fade. This has to be some mistake. Megan remained silent. Finally she spoke. Mr. Cole, please tell me exactly where you slept last night. Nathan described the room, the fireplace, the large window, the desk, the bookshelves, everything. Megan listened carefully. When he finished, she looked even more disturbed. That's impossible. Nathan crossed his arms. You keep saying that. Because those features don't exist in any room on the third floor. A cold sensation moved through him. Now she was either lying or something was very wrong. Nathan pulled the brass key from his pocket. Fine. He placed it on the counter. What about this? Megan looked down. Her eyes widened instantly. The colour disappeared from her face. For several seconds she couldn't speak. Finally she whispered, Where did you get that? Nathan stared. You gave it to me. Megan slowly shook her head. No. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I didn't. Nathan felt irritation building. Okay, enough. He leaned closer. If this is some kind of hotel marketing stunt, it's not funny. Megan looked genuinely confused. I have never seen that key before. Nathan laughed again, but this time the sound felt forced. Because deep down, he was beginning to believe her. Megan suddenly glanced around the lobby, making sure nobody was nearby. Then she lowered her voice. Come with me. Nathan followed her into a small office behind reception. She closed the door, locked it, then sat down heavily. What I'm about to tell you isn't part of any official hotel policy. Nathan listened. Megan hesitated. My grandfather worked here before the hotel closed. She paused. He told me stories. Nathan raised an eyebrow. What kind of stories? Megan looked uncomfortable. The kind most people don't believe. Nathan remained silent. According to him, certain guests occasionally reported a room that shouldn't exist. Nathan's heartbeat quickened. A room? She nodded. Room 303. The name seemed heavier now, more dangerous. Megan continued. Management always dismissed the reports. Most people assumed the guests were confused. But over the years, more stories appeared. Nathan leaned forward. What stories? Megan swallowed. Guests who checked into room 303 sometimes vanished. The room became silent. Nathan stared at her. Vanished? She nodded. Without explanation. His rational mind immediately rejected the idea. People didn't simply vanish. There was always an explanation. Yet something about Megan's expression prevented him from dismissing her words entirely. She genuinely believed what she was saying. Suddenly Nathan remembered something. The woman in white. The hallway. The note. His stomach tightened. No. He shook his head. There has to be another explanation. Megan didn't argue. Instead, she opened a desk drawer. Inside sat an old newspaper clipping. She handed it to him. The headline read, Local businessman disappears from Blackthorne Manor. The article was dated 1989. Nathan read quickly. A guest named Michael Harper had reportedly vanished during a weekend stay. Witnesses claimed he occupied room 303. Hotel records showed no such room existed. Nathan felt a chill. Another article followed. Then another, and another. Different years, different guests, same room. Shh! Room 303. Each disappearance shared identical details. No body, no explanation, no evidence. Only a room nobody could officially find. Nathan slowly lowered the papers. For the first time since arriving at Blackthorne Manor, fear began replacing curiosity. Because whatever happened last night, whatever room he had entered, whatever key rested inside his pocket, it appeared he wasn't the first person to experience it. And according to history, the others never left. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3, The Hallway That Changed, will reveal what happens when Nathan returns to the third floor and discovers that room 303 has completely disappeared. Chapter 3, The Hallway That Changed. Learn English through story. Mystery thriller. Nathan left Megan's office carrying more questions than answers. The old newspaper clippings felt heavy in his hands. Not because they weighed much, because of what they implied. For decades, people had reported the same impossible room, the same mysterious number, the same disappearances. And now, somehow, Nathan had become part of the story. He stood alone in the lobby, staring at the brass key in his palm. Room 303. The metal felt cold, much colder than it should. A strange thought entered his mind. What if he simply left? He could walk out of the hotel, drive back to Portland, forget everything, write a completely different article, pretend none of this had happened. It would be the smart thing to do, the safe thing. Yet Nathan had never been the kind of person who walked away from a mystery. His entire career existed because of curiosity, and right now, curiosity was stronger than fear. Barely, but stronger. At noon, he decided to return to the third floor. He wanted proof, something concrete, something real. Either he would discover a perfectly logical explanation, or he would confirm that something impossible was happening inside Blackthorne Manor. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. Nathan stepped out. Immediately, he noticed something strange. The hallway felt different. Not dramatically different, subtly different, like returning to a familiar place and realizing someone had moved all the furniture while you were gone. He couldn't explain it, but he felt it. The corridor seemed longer, the ceiling seemed slightly higher, the lights appeared dimmer, even the air felt colder. Nathan slowly walked forward. His footsteps echoed across the empty floor. Room 301, room 302. He continued moving, his pulse gradually increased. A few more steps. Then he stopped. Completely stopped. His breath caught. Room 303 was gone. Nathan stared at the wall, a solid wall, smooth, unbroken, painted exactly like the surrounding corridor. The space where room 303 had stood less than 12 hours earlier now contained nothing. No door, no frame, no room, nothing. Nathan felt his stomach twist. No, he stepped closer, touched the wall, pressed against it, knocked on it. Solid. There was no hidden door, no obvious trick, no sign that a room had ever existed there. Yet he remembered everything clearly. The fireplace, the bed, the window, the desk. He had slept there, hadn't he? Nathan stepped backward. For a moment he wondered if he was losing his mind. Then he looked down. The brass key remained in his hand. Proof, physical proof. The room had existed, or at least he believed it had. Suddenly, a voice behind him made him jump. "Looking for something?" Nathan spun around. An elderly housekeeper stood several feet away. She pushed a cleaning cart. Her grey hair was tied neatly beneath a small uniform cap. Nathan forced a smile. Actually, yes. The woman glanced toward the empty wall. Her expression changed. Only slightly, but Nathan noticed. "You saw it too, didn't you?" The words escaped before he could stop them. The housekeeper froze. For several seconds she said nothing. Then she slowly looked around the hallway, making sure nobody else was nearby. Finally she spoke. "You should leave." Nathan frowned. "What?" The woman lowered her voice. "You should check her out today." Nathan stared. "Why?" The housekeeper's eyes drifted toward the wall. Then she whispered, "Because it found you." A chill ran through Nathan. "What found me?" The woman shook her head. "No." She pushed her cart forward. "I've already said too much." Nathan stepped in front of her. "Wait." She stopped. "I need answers." The housekeeper looked tired, not physically tired, emotionally tired, as if she carried a burden she had been carrying for years. Finally, she sighed. "My name is Margaret." Nathan introduced himself. Margaret nodded. Then she pointed toward a small sitting area near the elevator. 5 minutes. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Margaret began speaking. "I started working here in 1987. Nathan listened carefully. Back then, the hotel was thriving. Her eyes drifted toward the window. But strange things happened. What kind of things? Margaret hesitated. Guests reported hearing voices. Nathan remained silent. They saw people who weren't there. She paused. And sometimes, her voice lowered. They saw room 303. Nathan felt his pulse quicken. How many people? Margaret laughed sadly. Too many. She stared at her folded hands. Some checked out immediately. What happened to the others? Margaret didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. They disappeared. The same word again. Disappear. Nathan hated that word, because it wasn't an explanation. It was the absence of one. Did anyone investigate? Margaret nodded. Many times. Police? Yes. What did they find? Nothing. Nathan leaned forward. There has to be something. Margaret looked directly into his eyes. There is. For the first time, genuine fear appeared on her face. The hallway. Nathan frowned. What about it? Margaret swallowed. The hallway changes. Silence. Nathan waited. The people who disappeared all reported the same thing. She stared toward the elevator. At night, the third-floor hallway becomes longer. Nathan felt cold, much colder than before. What do you mean longer? Margaret shook her head. I mean longer. Her voice trembled. Doors appear where there should be walls. Nathan remembered the vanished room. Walls move. His breathing slowed. Photographs change. He looked toward the framed pictures lining the corridor. And sometimes... Margaret stopped. Nathan waited. What? The elderly woman looked genuinely terrified. Sometimes people see someone standing at the end of the hall. Nathan's heart skipped a beat. The woman in white, the figure he had seen after midnight. What does she look like? Margaret stared. You've seen her. It wasn't a question. Nathan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Margaret already knew. The silence between them lasted several seconds. Finally she whispered, then it's already started. Nathan felt the room spin slightly. What has started? Margaret looked away. The search. The search for what? Her expression darkened. For the person she never found. Before Nathan could ask another question, the elevator doors opened. A family stepped out, children laughing, parents talking, normal people, normal sounds. The moment was broken. Margaret immediately stood. Her face closed again. The fear vanished behind a professional smile. I need to get back to work. Nathan rose as well. Margaret, she paused. If you know something, tell me. For a moment she seemed ready to speak. Then she shook her head. No. Why? Her answer chilled him. Because the last person who learned too much never left the hotel. With that, she walked away. Nathan remained standing beside the elevator. His mind raced. The hallway changed. A mysterious woman appeared at night. Guests vanished, and somehow all of it connected to room 303. He looked down the corridor once more. The empty wall stood exactly where the room should have been. Yet, as he stared, something caught his attention. One of the framed photographs near the end of the hallway. Nathan frowned. Had that picture always been there? Slowly, he approached. The black and white photograph showed guests standing in the hotel lobby sometime during the 1950s. Nothing unusual, at least initially. Then he noticed a woman standing in the background, a woman wearing white, looking directly at the camera, looking directly at him. Nathan's blood ran cold, because he recognized her immediately. She was the same woman he had seen in the hallway the previous night, and beneath the photograph, written in faded ink, was a name. Claire Whitmore. The moment Nathan read the name, every light in the hallway flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. Then, somewhere far down the corridor, a door slowly creaked open, a door that hadn't been there a moment earlier, and on the brass plate, illuminated by the flickering lights, Nathan saw a number. 303. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4, The Woman in White, will reveal the tragic history of Claire Whitmore and why room 303 keeps searching for someone who never came back. Chapter 4, The Woman in White. Learn English through story, mystery thriller. Nathan stood frozen at the end of the hallway. The lights continued flickering overhead. His heart pounded against his chest. Just moments earlier there had been nothing but a solid wall. Now a door stood there, old, dark, silent, and on its brass plate a number gleamed beneath the weak hallway lights. 303, Nathan blinked. The door remained, real, solid, impossible. For several seconds he couldn't move. Every logical part of his mind screamed the same thing: leave, walk away, take the elevator, check out of the hotel. Forget room 303 ever existed. Yet another voice inside him whispered something different, a quieter voice, a more dangerous one. Find out what's behind the door. Nathan slowly approached. His footsteps seemed unnaturally loud. The hallway had become silent again. Even the sounds from the lobby below had disappeared. The hotel felt empty, as though the entire building were holding its breath, waiting, watching. When he reached the door, he noticed something unusual. The brass handle looked worn, not from age, from use, as though thousands of people had opened this door before him. And yet officially, room 303 had never existed. Nathan reached into his pocket. The brass key was still there, cold against his skin. He removed it carefully. The key fit perfectly into the lock. A soft click echoed through the corridor. The sound seemed louder than it should have been, almost final. Nathan pushed the door open. The room beyond looked exactly as he remembered. At first, the bed, the fireplace, the bookshelves, the large window, everything appeared unchanged, yet something felt different. The air, the atmosphere. The room seemed older, much older. Nathan stepped inside. The door closed behind him, slowly, by itself. He spun around immediately. The room suddenly felt smaller, more confined. "Okay," he whispered. Not funny. No answer came, only silence. Nathan turned back toward the room. That's when he noticed the first change. The furniture wasn't modern anymore. The wooden desk looked decades older. The wallpaper appeared faded. The curtains belonged to another era. Even the fireplace tools looked antique. It was as though the room existed in a different time period. Nathan slowly approached the desk. A layer of dust covered its surface. He touched it. The dust was real. Not staged, not decorative. Real dust. Years old. His pulse quickened. Then he heard something. A faint sound. Music. Soft piano music drifting through the room. Nathan turned toward the source. The music seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere. A melody from another time, beautiful, sad, lonely. The temperature dropped. Nathan could see his breath. Then the piano music stopped, instantly. The silence that followed felt heavier than before, and then he saw her. Standing near the window, a woman dressed in white, motionless, watching the valley below. Nathan's heart nearly stopped. She wasn't transparent, not ghostly, not blurry. She looked completely real. Long dark hair, pale skin, elegant white dress, the same woman from the photograph. For several moments, neither of them moved. Nathan didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. Finally, he forced himself to speak. "Claire?" The woman slowly turned. Her eyes met his. They were filled with sadness, the kind of sadness that only comes from waiting too long. Much too long. She studied him carefully, as though searching for something, or someone. Nathan felt strangely uncomfortable beneath her gaze, because it wasn't the look of a stranger. It was the look of someone recognizing a face she had hoped to see for a long time. Then Claire spoke. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "You're not him." The words echoed through the room. Nathan swallowed. "Who?" Claire's expression fell. A heartbreaking disappointment appeared in her eyes, the kind that comes from losing hope again. The one who promised he would return. Nathan remained silent. Claire slowly turned back toward the window. The mountains stretched endlessly beyond the glass. "I thought perhaps this time." Her voice faded. "But no." Nathan took a cautious step forward. "Who are you waiting for?" For a moment, Claire didn't answer. Then she smiled sadly. "The same person I've always been waiting for." The room suddenly felt colder. His name was Samuel. Nathan listened carefully. "We were supposed to be married." Her voice carried the weight of old memories. Many years ago. The air around her seemed to shimmer. And suddenly the room changed. Not completely, just enough. Nathan gasped. The faded furniture looked newer, the wallpaper brighter, the fireplace burning warmly. The room had transformed. Or perhaps he was seeing the past. Claire continued speaking. "We arrived at the hotel together." Nathan watched as figures appeared around the room. Transparent figures, like memories. Guests laughing, workers carrying luggage, people moving through another era. A living snapshot of the past. Claire's eyes never left the mountains. He promised he would return before sunset. The room darkened. The memory shifted. The guests vanished. The laughter disappeared. Only Claire remained, waiting beside the window. Hours passed, days passed, weeks. The images flashed rapidly around Nathan, like scenes from an old film. Claire waiting, watching, hoping. Waiting, watching, hoping. Again and again, until eventually the room became empty. Silent. Lonely. Nathan felt a lump form in his throat. What happened to him? Claire finally looked at him. Tears filled her eyes. He never came back. The words carried decades of pain. Nathan's chest tightened. He died, didn't he? Claire said nothing, but her silence answered the question. A tear rolled down her cheek. I didn't know. Nathan frowned. What do you mean? Claire looked genuinely confused. He simply disappeared. For the first time, Nathan realized something important. Claire never learned the truth. Whatever happened to Samuel? Nobody had told her. And somehow her endless waiting had trapped something inside room 303. A memory, a promise, a heartbreak. The room itself seemed built from grief. Years of grief. Decades of grief. Then Claire suddenly stepped closer. Nathan felt a chill. Her eyes searched his face carefully. Too carefully. Almost desperately. Why do you look like him? Nathan froze. What? Claire reached toward him. Her hand stopped inches from his face. You have his eyes. Nathan's heartbeat accelerated. No. Claire tilted her head. Confused. Not exactly. Her expression darkened, but close. Nathan stepped backward. Something about the way she said it frightened him. Because it wasn't recognition. It was hope. And hope can become dangerous when it survives too long. Then suddenly every light inside the room went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Nathan heard the wind howling outside. The temperature plunged, and Claire's voice echoed through the darkness. Soft, broken, lonely. I've been waiting for 70 years. The words seemed to come from everywhere, and nowhere. Then another voice spoke. A man's voice. Distant, weak. Claire. Nathan's eyes widened. The voice wasn't inside the room. It was coming from somewhere deeper. Somewhere beyond room 303. Claire heard it too. Instantly her expression changed. Hope returned to her eyes. Real hope. For the first time in decades. She turned toward the far wall. A wall that was no longer a wall. A doorway had appeared. Beyond it stretched darkness. Endless darkness. And somewhere within that darkness, someone was calling her name. Claire! The voice came again. Nathan felt fear unlike anything he had ever experienced, because whatever existed beyond that doorway was not meant to be found, and Claire was already moving toward it. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5, Who Never Returned, will reveal the truth about Samuel Whitmore, why Nathan resembles him, and the terrifying secret hidden beyond room 303. Chapter 5, The Man Who Never Returned. Learn English through story, mystery thriller. The voice echoed from the darkness beyond the impossible doorway. Claire, soft, distant, almost pleading. Nathan stood frozen. Every instinct told him something was wrong, terribly wrong. The voice sounded human, but there was something unnatural hidden beneath it, a faint distortion, like an old recording playing through damaged speakers. Claire, however, didn't seem to notice. Or perhaps she didn't care. After 70 years of waiting, all she heard was hope, her eyes filled with tears. Samuel, she took another step toward the darkness. Nathan immediately moved forward. Claire, wait! She didn't stop. Claire! This time she paused, slowly turning toward him. For the first time since meeting her, Nathan saw uncertainty in her expression. What if it's not him? He asked. Claire stared silently. The question clearly hurt, because deep down she already knew. The voice called again. Claire. Nathan listened carefully. This time he noticed something strange. The voice never changed. Not even slightly. The tone, the volume, the emotion, everything sounded exactly the same. Like a loop, a memory repeating itself, not a living person speaking, a recording, or something pretending to be one. Nathan's pulse quickened. That's not Samuel. Claire looked away. You don't know that? No. Nathan swallowed. But I know something isn't right. The room suddenly trembled. A low vibration passed through the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling, the darkness beyond the doorway seemed to expand, growing larger, hungry. The voice came again. Claire. This time it sounded closer, much closer. And for a split second, Nathan heard something else beneath the words. Whispers. Hundreds of whispers. Dozens of voices speaking at once. His blood ran cold. Whatever waited beyond that doorway wasn't Samuel Whitmore. It was something else, something that had learned how to sound like him. Claire took another step forward. Nathan grabbed her wrist. Instantly the room shook violently. The lights flickered, the walls groaned. The temperature dropped. Claire looked shocked. Not angry, surprised. As though nobody had touched her in a very long time. For several moments neither moved. Then Nathan spoke quietly. Tell me what happened. Claire stared into his eyes. Why? Because I think someone lied to you. Silence. The room stopped shaking. Slowly, Claire stepped away from the doorway. The darkness seemed to retreat slightly. Nathan noticed immediately. Whatever existed beyond that doorway didn't want her remembering the truth. And that made him even more determined. Tell me everything. For the first time, Claire nodded. The room changed again. The walls blurred, the furniture faded, the air shimmered. Suddenly, Nathan found himself standing inside another version of room 303. Not the abandoned room, not the haunted room. The real room. The room as it had existed 70 years earlier. The year was 1954. Claire sat near the window, younger, alive, happy. Across from her sat a man. Nathan's breath caught. The man looked exactly like him. Not similar, not resembling, exactly. Same face, same eyes, same smile. Nathan felt dizzy. What is this? A memory, Claire whispered. The younger Samuel laughed at something Claire said. The two looked deeply in love, comfortable together, planning a future. Nathan watched silently. Then the memory shifted. The next scene appeared. Samuel packing a suitcase, Claire standing beside him. When will you be back? She asked, before sunset. Samuel kissed her forehead. I promise. Then he left. The memory changed again. Claire waited by the window. Hours passed. The sky darkened. Still she waited. Morning came. Then another day. Then another. Samuel never returned. The vision faded. The room returned. Nathan looked at Claire. What happened to him? Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know. The sadness in her voice felt unbearable. He simply vanished. Nathan frowned. No. Something felt wrong, very wrong. If Samuel had died in an accident, why hadn't anyone told her? Why did she spend decades waiting? And why did room 303 continue searching? Suddenly, Nathan remembered something. The old newspaper archives, the historical records, the hotel's forgotten documents. There had to be answers, real answers, not ghost stories, truth. The room suddenly flickered. Claire looked frightened. It's becoming unstable. What is? The memory. The floor trembled again. The darkness beyond the doorway expanded further, and then Nathan saw them. Faces. Hundreds of faces, emerging briefly from the shadows. Men. Women. Young. Old. All staring outward. Watching. Waiting. Nathan stepped backward. Who are they? Claire's expression darkened. The others. The others? The people who entered room 303. Nathan felt cold, the missing guests, the vanished travellers, everyone who had disappeared. They're still here? Claire nodded slowly. They followed the voice. The realization hit Nathan immediately. Every missing guest had heard Samuel's voice, or someone else's. The room offered them exactly what they wanted most. A lost loved one, a second chance, a reunion. And when they followed the voice, they never returned. The darkness wasn't searching for Samuel. The darkness was hunting, using grief, using memories, using hope. Nathan stared at the doorway. The whispers grew louder, more desperate, more hungry. Then a new voice emerged. A voice Nathan recognized instantly. His father's voice. Nathan froze. Impossible. His father had died 12 years earlier. Yet the voice sounded perfect, identical. Nathan, his chest tightened. The darkness knew. It knew exactly what each person longed to hear. Nathan, come here. The voice sounded warm, comforting. For one terrifying moment, Nathan wanted to follow it, Just one step, one conversation, one chance to see his father again. Then he understood. This was how it worked. This was how Room 303 trapped people. Not through fear, through love, through loss, through hope. The most dangerous emotions of all. Nathan clenched his fists. No. The voice called again. Nathan. He stepped backward. No. The darkness seemed to react. The whispers became angry. The room shook violently. Claire suddenly grabbed his arm. "We have to leave." Nathan nodded. Together they moved toward the door. But before leaving, Nathan looked back one final time. And deep within the darkness, far beyond the trapped faces, far beyond the whispers, he saw something moving. A tall shadow. Watching them. Not Samuel. Not human. Something ancient. Something that had been inside Room 303 from the beginning. And for the first time, Nathan realized the terrifying truth. Room 303 wasn't haunted by Claire. Claire was one of its victims. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6, The Truth Hidden in the Basement Archives, will reveal what Room 303 really is, why Nathan resembles Samuel Whitmore, and how the hotel has been hiding the secret for decades. Chapter 6, The Truth Hidden in the Basement Archives. Learn English through story. Mystery thriller. Nathan and Claire burst out of Room 303 just as the doorway behind them slammed shut. The hallway lights exploded in a shower of sparks. For a moment, the entire third floor plunged into darkness. Then the emergency lights flickered on. Dim red light flooded the corridor. Everything looked different. Unnatural. The shadows seemed longer. The hallway seemed narrower, as though the hotel itself was changing, watching, listening, waiting. Nathan grabbed the wall to steady himself. His heart was still racing. He could still hear the whispers from inside Room 303. Hundreds of voices, hundreds of lost people, all trapped, all waiting. Claire stood beside him, but something about her had changed. She looked stronger, more solid, more alive. For the first time since meeting her, she seemed less like a ghost and more like a real person. A person finally beginning to remember. "Nathan," her voice trembled. "We're running out of time." "What do you mean?" Claire looked toward the end of the hallway. "It's waking up." Nathan already knew what she meant. The thing inside Room 303, the shadow he had seen, the thing pretending to be Samuel, the thing feeding on grief and loneliness. But what exactly was it? And why did it exist? Nathan needed answers, real answers. Suddenly he remembered something Margaret had said. The hotel had closed 22 years ago. Why? What if the answer wasn't upstairs? What if it was hidden somewhere else? The old archives, the hotel records, the forgotten documents. If Room 303 had existed for decades, someone must have discovered the truth. Someone must have written it down. Nathan looked at Claire. "We need to find the hotel's archives." Claire nodded immediately, as though she already knew where they were. "The basement." Nathan frowned. "How do you know?" Claire looked confused herself. "I don't know." Then her expression softened. "I just remember." More memories were returning, and that meant they were getting closer to the truth, or closer to danger. Perhaps both. Together they hurried toward the elevator. As they descended, Nathan noticed something strange. The elevator mirror reflected him clearly, but Claire's reflection appeared faint, almost transparent. She noticed it too. "What?" Her voice grew quieter. "I don't think I have much time." The realization hit him immediately. Claire was tied to Room 303. If the mystery ended, if the room disappeared, she might disappear too. The thought bothered him more than expected. After all, Claire wasn't the villain. She had been trapped, a victim, just like everyone else. The elevator doors opened. The basement level was silent. Unlike the elegant upper floors, this area looked abandoned. Dust covered the walls. Old pipes ran along the ceiling. Dim utility lights cast weak shadows. At the end of the corridor stood a metal door marked Hashed Archives. Nathan pushed it open. The room beyond was enormous. Rows of shelves stretched into darkness. Boxes, folders, ledgers, photographs, documents, decades of forgotten history. Nathan switched on a desk lamp. Its warm light illuminated stacks of old records. Now came the hard part, finding the truth. Hours seemed to pass. Nathan searched through employee files, maintenance reports, newspaper clippings, guest registries. Most revealed nothing unusual. Then he found a file labelled Hashed Incident Reports, Restricted Access. His pulse quickened. He opened it. Inside were dozens of handwritten reports. Many mentioned room 303. One report caught his attention immediately. Date, October 17, 1954, the same year Samuel Whitmore disappeared. Nathan began reading. The report had been written by the hotel's former manager. As he read, his blood ran cold. According to the document, Samuel Whitmore never died in a car accident. He never left the hotel. Nathan looked up. What? Claire stared. What does it say? Nathan continued reading. Samuel had entered a hidden section of the hotel beneath room 303. Several staff members reported hearing strange sounds, voices, whispers, screams. Then Samuel vanished, without a trace, just like the guests who disappeared after him. Claire covered her mouth. Her entire world had been built on a lie. Samuel never abandoned her. He never chose not to return. Something had taken him. Nathan continued searching. Then he found another document. This one was older, much older. The date shocked him. 1881, nearly 70 years before Claire arrived. The document described construction of the original hotel, and hidden within the notes was a disturbing discovery. Room 303 wasn't part of the original design. It appeared later, by itself. Workers repeatedly reported a room that shouldn't exist, a room that moved, a room that appeared in different places, a room nobody remembered building. Nathan felt chills race down his spine. The phenomenon was far older than anyone realized. Room 303 had existed long before Claire, long before Samuel, long before the hotel itself. Then he found the final document, a leather journal. The pages were brittle with age. The author's name had faded, but the final entry remained readable. Nathan slowly read aloud. Open quote, "The room is not a place, it is a doorway." Close quote. Claire listened silently. Open quote, "It learns from sorrow." Close quote. Nathan continued. Open quote, "It feeds on regret." Close quote. The room suddenly felt colder. Open quote, "It becomes strongest when someone refuses to let go of the past." Close quote stopped. Everything suddenly made sense. Claire's grief, Samuel's disappearance, the trapped guests. Room 303 wasn't creating sadness. It was feeding on sadness that already existed. Growing stronger each time someone entered, growing stronger each time someone chose memory over reality. Then Nathan reached the final line, and his heart nearly stopped. Open quote, "If the room ever finds the one it is truly searching for, the doorway will fully open." Close quote. Silence filled the archive room. Nathan looked at Claire. Claire looked at Nathan. Neither spoke, because both were thinking the same thing. Who was it searching for? Suddenly the lights went out. Complete darkness. A violent tremor shook the building. Shelves collapsed. Boxes fell. Documents scattered across the floor. Somewhere above them, a deep roar echoed through the hotel. Not human, not animal. Something much worse. The sound seemed to come from every wall at once. Claire's face turned pale. It's happening. Nathan's heart pounded. What is? Claire stared upward. Fear filled her eyes. The doorway is opening. Then a voice echoed through the darkness. Not Samuel's voice. Not Nathan's father's voice. The real voice. The voice of the thing inside room 303. Deep, ancient, hungry. And for the first time, it spoke clearly. "Bring her to me." The entire hotel shook, and Nathan realized the nightmare was far from over. End of Chapter 6, Chapter 7, The Final Doorway, the epic conclusion where Nathan discovers why he resembles Samuel Whitmore, what the entity truly wants, and whether Room 303 can finally be destroyed forever. Chapter 7, The Final Doorway. Learn English through story, mystery, final chapter. The words echoed through the darkness. Bring her to me. The voice seemed to come from every direction at once, from the walls, from the floor, from the shadows, from the very foundations of Blackthorne Manor. Nathan felt the air grow colder. The temperature dropped so quickly that his breath became visible. Around him, papers swirled across the archive room floor. Old documents flew through the air like frightened birds. The entire hotel trembled. Claire stood motionless. Her face had turned pale, not with fear alone, with recognition. She knew something she hadn't remembered until now. Nathan grabbed her shoulders. She didn't respond. Claire. Finally, her eyes focused on him. Tears filled them. "It's me." Nathan frowned. "What?" The building shook again. A loud cracking sound echoed overhead. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere of them, guests screamed. The hotel was beginning to fall apart. Claire swallowed. "The room isn't looking for Samuel." Nathan stared. "What are you talking about?" Claire's voice trembled. It never was. For a moment, neither spoke. Then realization struck Nathan. The entity wasn't searching for Samuel. It had been searching for Claire, all along. The room had used Samuel's voice, his memory, his image, because Claire's grief had made her vulnerable, and for 70 years she had unknowingly fed the doorway with her sorrow. Nathan felt sick. Everything suddenly made sense. The endless waiting, the repeated appearances, the trapped guests. The room had survived because Claire never stopped hoping, never stopped waiting, never stopped grieving. And now, after decades of feeding on her pain, the entity was finally strong enough to escape. The realization horrified him. If it gets you. Claire nodded. The doorway opens completely. Nathan's pulse raced. And then Claire looked away. I don't know. But her expression suggested she already did, and whatever she imagined terrified her. Suddenly the archive room door exploded open. A violent gust of icy wind rushed inside. The lights flickered back on. For a brief moment, Nathan saw the hallway outside, and froze. The hotel was changing. The corridors stretched impossibly far, the walls twisted. Doors appeared where none had existed before, windows vanished, shadows moved on their own. Reality itself seemed unstable. Blackthorne Manor was becoming part of room 303. The doorway was spreading. Nathan grabbed Claire's hand. "We have to leave." But Claire didn't move. Instead, she stared toward the hallway. A sad smile appeared on her face. "I finally remember." Nathan felt dread. "Remember what?" Claire looked at him. "The truth about Samuel." For the first time, her expression seemed peaceful. Not frightened, not confused. Peaceful. The memory returned completely. And suddenly Nathan saw it too. Not with his eyes, with the room's memory. The archive vanished. The hotel vanished. He found himself standing inside a vision. A rainy night, 1954, Samuel Whitmore walking through the hotel corridors, searching, looking for something or someone. Then a door appeared, a door that shouldn't exist. Room 303. Samuel entered. Nathan watched as the young man disappeared into darkness. Then came the screams, not of fear, of resistance. Samuel had fought. He had discovered the truth. He had tried to stop the entity. And before vanishing, he left a message. A warning. Not for the hotel, not for future guests. For Claire. Nathan saw Samuel carve words into a wooden wall hidden behind the room. The memory shifted. Nathan read the message. "Claire, don't wait for me." Tears filled Claire's eyes. For 70 years she had believed Samuel abandoned her. But he hadn't. His final act had been trying to save her. The vision faded. The archive room returned. Claire was crying. Yet for the first time her tears weren't filled with sadness. They were filled with release. The burden she had carried for decades was finally gone. And something remarkable happened. The hotel stopped shaking. Just for a moment. The entity roared. A furious sound. Nathan understood immediately. The room was weakening. Without Claire's grief, it was losing power. For 70 years it had fed on her sorrow. Now that sorrow was gone. The creature inside room 303 was starving, and it was desperate. The hallway outside darkened. A massive shadow appeared at the far end, taller than any human. Its shape constantly shifted, changing, moving, growing. Hundreds of faces emerged briefly across its surface, the trapped guests, the lost souls, all struggling to escape. Nathan felt frozen with terror. The entity moved toward them, slowly, hungrily. Its voice shook the building. "She belongs to me." Claire stepped forward. No. The shadow paused. For the first time, Nathan saw uncertainty within the creature. Claire's voice grew stronger. I waited because I was afraid. The darkness trembled. I suffered because I refused to let go. The walls cracked. But not anymore. The shadow screamed. An inhuman sound filled the hotel. Guests throughout the building shouted in panic. Lights exploded. Windows shattered. Yet Claire remained calm. For the first time in 70 years, she wasn't waiting. She wasn't hoping. She wasn't grieving. She was free. And without her grief, the doorway began collapsing. The floor shook violently. The shadow twisted, shrank, fought desperately to survive. The trapped faces started disappearing. One by one, each soul finally released. Nathan watched in amazement. The hotel groaned around them. Then a bright light appeared, at first small, then larger. The light surrounded Claire. She smiled. The same peaceful smile Nathan had seen in the old photograph. And suddenly another figure appeared beside her. A young man, Samuel Whitmore. Not a memory, not an illusion, something beyond both. Samuel took Claire's hand. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. After 70 years, every word had already been said. Claire looked toward Nathan. Thank you. Nathan felt emotion rise in his throat. Then Claire and Samuel stepped into the light and vanished. The entity released one final scream. A scream of rage, a scream of defeat. Then room 303 collapsed. The darkness folded inward. The doorway closed. Forever. Silence followed. Hours later, emergency crews arrived. Most guests remembered only confusion, a strange storm, a power outage, nothing more. Nobody remembered room 303, nobody except Nathan. The next morning, Blackthorne Manor stood peacefully beneath a clear blue sky. Nathan walked through the third floor one final time. Room 301, room 302, room 304, room 305. No room 303. Not even a trace, as though it had never existed. Yet near the end of the hallway, Nathan noticed something. A framed photograph. Inside the picture stood Claire and Samuel, smiling, together, for the first time, and beneath the photograph a new inscription had appeared. Some people wait a lifetime for peace, others find it when they finally let go. Nathan smiled, then he left Blackthorne Manor forever. Some mysteries are solved through investigation, some through courage, and some through learning that the past was never meant to be a place where we live. Only a place we remember. The End Room 303 was never listed is a story about grief, memory, love, and the danger of becoming trapped by the past. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is let go of what can never return and choose to move forward.